you controlling the mics, or will I need to turn anything on? Okay. And are we starting right at 6, or are we going to start now? Okay.
Hey, Creed, we're getting ready to start.
Okay. Just a second. Good evening, everyone. How is everybody this evening or this afternoon? There we go. Energy. I love it. Well, we want to welcome you all to tonight's, what was going to be a debate, but is now a forum, a town hall. So we welcome you all. We know that you all took time out of your day, went through all of the traffic to make it here for this most important discussion. As you all know, that this event is being brought to you by the Tennessee Holler, which we know will holler, never hesitates. And is also brought to you by MLK 50 Justice Through Journalism, based in Memphis, Tennessee. This event tonight being held here at the lovely Williamson County Administration Complex and online through the Holler and Williamson County TV. And with that being said, we want to give a very special thank you to the administrators here of this beautiful building, and to Williamson County TV for their effort in putting this on and supporting the fact that folks here need to hear from those who are going to represent them. So your efforts are much appreciated, and we thank you. Give them some love as well, please. And at this time, we do have to have a point of order. We would like for any in the audience that are elected officials or candidates running for office to please stand so that we can recognize you. Thank you so much. We appreciate you, and we wish you the best of luck in your race. Now, just a reminder for everyone, today is the first day of early voting. If you do not have your I voted sticker, hopefully you will get one soon. We are just under 3 weeks from Election Day. So again, if you have not voted yet, we ask that you please do. Make sure your voice is heard. Now, sadly, this will likely be the only debate or discussion of the 2024 United States Senate race here in the great state of Tennessee. But regardless, we are here tonight to hear information. Some of you all have already submitted your questions, because my questions, well, they're not all my questions, will not be the only ones that will be presented to our candidate tonight, Representative Gloria Johnson. You get a chance as well, because again, this debate, this forum is for you. So we want to make sure your voices are heard as well. We do have some cards or sticky notes. Justin, who just stepped out, has some set up somewhere. Justin, when you come back, if you could please let everyone know where our pink cards are. And so once you fill that out with your question, if you would like to put your name on it, feel free. If you do not, that is just fine. But once you put your question on that sticky note, it will be added into the basket, and at such point in the program, we will present your question. Fair enough? Yes. All right. I love it when you talk to me. Thank you so much. All right. Tonight, again, as you all know, this discussion was to be between two candidates. Both the Democratic and Republican leading candidates for Senate were invited to participate tonight and given ample time to respond. However, only the Democratic nominee, leading Democratic nominee, Representative Gloria Johnson of Knoxville, who you see at the end here of the dais, has accepted the invitation to join us in person. And thank you. If you don't mind, and this is for you and for everyone, we're going to have point of order, because we want everyone to have. It is, but that does not mean it has to be absent of order. Okay, so we do want everyone to have a fair share in speaking, and we do not want anyone to overspeak anyone. And we have to.
I just want to clarify that.
I understand, but in interrupting the forum, that is disrespectful to the entire audience because we're trying to have everyone to listen and to hear. And here we are again, we are continuing, so we're going to move forward. That being said, as I mentioned, we do have Representative Gloria Johnson who is here, and we thank you for participating, taking time out from your schedule. And now we are going to move forward. And of course, it is our hope that Senator Blackburn will attend. If at some point she does show up tonight, of course, that invitation will continue to be extended, and she will be invited to sit with us up here and participate. All right, let's move forward now with tonight's discussion. And again, your voice. Reminder for the cards, if you could fill in your questions and pose your questions so we can have those for our guests tonight. Now, here's the funny thing. Representative Johnson won the coin toss, so regardless, you were going to go first. Fair enough. Is that still okay with you to go first?
I didn't remember the coin toss.
All right. Tonight's questions have been created by the Tennessee Holler and MLK 50. We are going to start first discussing the hurricane. Now, here's our first question. Last week, East Tennessee was rocked by Hurricane Helene. The damage was devastating, and the area will be rebuilding for quite some time. Now, despite bipartisan praise from governors in the Southeast, many Republicans have been very critical of the FEMA response, perpetuating some blatant lies that have resulted in FEMA workers being threatened and forced to relocate. What do you think about the FEMA response and the Biden administration's response in general to the storms? And if elected, would you support more funding for FEMA where it needed, or do you believe FEMA should be defunded, as Representative Tim Burchett said, and largely privatized as spelled out in the Project 2025 plan? And let me say, forgive me, you have 90 seconds to answer. Our handsome Justin Canoe is our timekeeper tonight. If at any point you need me to repeat the questions, I will gladly do so. And your time will not start until you begin answering.
Okay. Thank you. Well, it's very concerning to me that my opponent, 2 days before the hurricane, voted against that hurricane relief. And we knew that Tennessee was going to be affected. We should have acted. And my opponent was voting against that relief in D.C. The governor also waited 2 days later than the other southern states to request that assistance. But after requesting the assistance, it came within a few hours. And so we have seen FEMA on the ground in Tennessee. They are doing the work. And we certainly have to have all hands on deck because Tennessee families have been devastated. So many of them have lost absolutely everything. And, you know, sometimes we think about this for a week or two, but this is literally something that is going to go on for months and months, and we have to continue to be there for them. And when my opponent and the candidate for U.S. president on the other side of the aisle wants to tell lies about what FEMA is doing and what their mission is, it is only causing further damage to those families. It's only taking them longer. So I would absolutely support FEMA, support more funding for FEMA if it is needed. And I also would educate people on the ground of what FEMA's job actually is, because they have gotten too much misinformation about that, and it's hurting families.
Thank you very much. And staying with the storm response just for a moment, Governor Lee has just announced that Tennessee will be providing $100 million in loans to storm-torn counties. Folks on both the right and left have been critical of the plan since Lee's state government just gave billions to corporations in the form of a tax handout, almost $1 billion to Ford for their Blue Oval City project, and has 144 million sitting idle for private school vouchers, which he says he still plans on going through with. What are your thoughts about Governor Lee's plans to give loans to the East Tennessee counties? And do you think that the state should just be giving the money to those counties to rebuild instead?
I absolutely am horrified that our governor, who had no problem giving a $1.8 billion tax cut to corporations, 53% of those tax dollars going to other states outside of Tennessee, and is saying that he will give loans to these folks who are devastated. People who don't have a place to live, people who don't have food and don't have the supplies that they need. And he's talking about giving folks a loan. The reality is we have money there for the people when it is needed. We have a rainy day fund, but in addition to that, we have other funds as well that we can assist Tennesseans in dire need. And that there's no reason we can't do that here in Tennessee. But I think it's like a slap in the face to these families who are devastated to say you will give them a loan. It's just outrageous. You give tax breaks for corporations constantly in this state, but you have nothing for Tennessee families who have lost everything. I think that we can do better for Tennesseans, and honestly, that is why I decided to run, because Tennessee families, hardworking Tennessee families, are getting the short end of the sticks, and our supermajority and Tennessee Republicans are taking care of the wealthy, the well-connected, and lobbyists and billionaires.
Thank you so much. This next question is brought to you by MLK 50, Justice Through Journalism. What is your, excuse me again, we cannot have disruption in the forum. We cannot, Representative Johnson,
Yes.
The question is, what is your plan for ensuring that the city of Memphis and Shelby County receive direct, on-the-ground support to improve public safety outside of increasing unchecked funding to law enforcement agencies? And if you need me to repeat that, I can.
No, that's okay. Thank you. It is critical, and I've been to Memphis many times, and throughout this campaign spent a lot of time talking to folks about that very issue. And the reality is, what we are not doing in Tennessee when it comes to violent crime is anything about prevention. There are so many things that we can do addressing prevention on the front end so that we have 30 to 40% less violent crime. By expanding Medicaid, every single state that has expanded Medicaid within 3 years, their violent crime rate dropped by 19 to 29%. 19 to 29% of violent crime dropped. Drug crime dropped 21 to 43% when Medicaid was expanded. These states saved between $1 and $5 billion because of the drop in violent crime. So you can put those monies back in to programs that lift people up instead. Another thing that you can do, my opponent absolutely refuses to raise the wage from $7.25, the federal minimum wage that Tennessee operates on. Absolutely refuses to do that. And so another study will tell you that when you raise the minimum wage, violent crime drops from between 5 and 10%. Between 5 and the 10% is typically with your juveniles to young adults. That's where you see the biggest drop. So what that does is it prevents that young person from ever committing that first crime. That's what you see when you raise the wage. So the things I'm about are raising the wage, making sure everyone has access to affordable health care, and that is something that we should be doing in addition to things like that Vice President Harris and President Biden have already done with the Office of Gun Violence and the first legislation to put in protections with gun violence in years. But that's what I would do.
All right, now let's move to education. Governor Lee plans to bring back his private school vouchers plan next session, steering hundreds of millions to private schools. The plan did not move forward last session because there were many Republicans who were not on board, but millions flowed into Tennessee Republican primaries from out-of-state sources supportive of vouchers, meaning next session there could be more support for it. The push for vouchers is also happening on a national level as well, as outlined in Project 2025. In Iowa, in the first 2 years of their vouchers plan, 36 new private schools opened while 16 public schools closed. In Arizona, their vouchers have exploded their state budget. What are your feelings about public money going to private schools, and do you feel our schools in Tennessee are properly funded?
Well, you know, my colleagues in the State House would say that our public schools are failing. That's a lie. Our state legislature is failing our public schools. They have been strangling them of the dollars they need and not fully funding our public schools in the attempt to make it look as if we need some other solution. And then they bring in their privatizing efforts like charter schools and vouchers. And here's what we know about those things. We know that charter schools have never proven to be the answer and be a better choice. These folks, they talk about school choice. You have to have a choice. Well, we should have a choice, but we should have a better choice. Charter schools do not perform nearly as well as public schools. And in every single state that has vouchers, voucher students perform worse than their public school peers. Same thing in Tennessee. Every voucher student performs at a lower level than their public school peers. And so if we want to offer a choice, shouldn't that choice be a better choice? Should we spend more money for a worse choice? This does not make sense. The only reason we are talking about this thing because it benefits corporations, hedge fund managers, and venture capitalists. It does not benefit the 1 million kids in Tennessee that go to school. Now, 95% of people went to public school, and they like their public school. We need to improve, there's no question about that. But you can't siphon funds away from public schools and then say they're doing a bad job and pour money into solutions that have never once proven to be better. That's what I would call ignorance. And so we are seeing it at the state level and we're seeing it at the federal level because my opponent wants to defund the Federal Department of Education, which gives kids who need it lunch and breakfast every day. Kids that go to bed hungry in Tennessee, that is where the dollars come that pay for their school lunches. Special ed services. I taught special education for 27 years. The kids I taught got the programs that they need. So when they graduated, and my kids graduated, at 95% of my kids graduated with a regular ed diploma, and they were special ed kids. And it was because we gave them the programs that they needed. And so they became successful adults. They went to 4-year universities. They went to 2-year community colleges. They went to TCATs. And some of my kids went to the military and did 20 years service to the military because they got what they needed. And the other bucket of that federal money is Title I dollars. Title I goes to bring equity to every school so that every kid, no matter their zip code, has a well-resourced classroom. And it is critical because I believe public education is the bedrock of democracy, and it's what lifts all of our kids. So let's offer choices like the really great magnet schools that are here, that are in Nashville, that are in Knoxville. Let's offer choices like Knoxville has career prep, where the high school is in the same building as Pellissippi Community College, and the kids can take college courses and be certified in certain vocational areas when they graduate high school. That's what a choice is that works for a child. Community schools that are just your traditional neighborhood school, funding programs after school and providing resources that kids need. Those are solutions. Privatizing is not a solution, and it's been proven time and time again. That money ends up going 60, 70, 80% of the time to subsidize wealthy's private education, because some of those kids that are getting those vouchers never once attended a public school to begin with.
Thank you so much. And as we continue through our questions, I do want to remind everyone you can still submit your question. We see Mr. Justin Canoe in the back, who's going to wave those pink Post-it notes so you all will not miss them. So if you do have a question or a comment, feel free to write it down, and he will drop it in the basket, and we will read it out a little bit later. All right, this next question is from MLK 50, Justice Through Journalism. If elected, how will you seek increased funding for public schools, and what areas will that funding target?
Well, that is, there's so many ways that we can allot that funding. And so what we've seen when increases from the federal government, most of what we see there is a lot of funding for more educators or more social workers. We need to increase the number of nurses in our public schools. So many times in underserved schools, there are not the number of social workers that you need, and counselors and that type of thing. Mental health services that we can offer through our schools. I taught emotionally disturbed, behavior disordered teenagers. So that's why, to me and to my classroom, it was so critical that we had counselors in the classroom or that visit our classroom multiple times a week and could take our students to a psychologist or a psychiatrist if they needed medications, because sometimes their family didn't have the transportation or the ability to get them there. So there's so much we can do. Another thing is making sure that we are funding the ability to have these community schools. Because what a community school does, it's a traditional neighborhood school, and there's a specific need in that community. In Knoxville, we have schools that stay open in the evening from 3 to 7. It's not the same staff as the daytime, because you don't want somebody working from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So it's a different staff in the afternoon, and kids get tutored in every single subject area. In addition, they have music, art, dance. We have circus. We have a massive community garden where kids can work in the garden. Their parents can come down in the evening. The parents can work in the gardens as well. They're often in food deserts, so they can take those things that they're growing home. And then often at the end of the evening, there is a meal, and the entire family can come down for the meal, not just the students. And every student gets a mentor, say from the University of Tennessee, something like that. So it is providing all the things that under-resourced communities and under-resourced families need for their kids to be successful. But parents can come down, and parents can take GED classes. They can learn resume writing or computer skills so that they can improve their skills as well. But the cool thing about community schools is that community, literally that school district for that small area, decides what would benefit their community. It's not decided by Nashville or DC. It's decided by that community. At one point, at one of our schools, the area, what they discovered was some of these families were one car problem away from losing their job. If they got a car problem, they couldn't get it fixed, and because of transportation might lose their job. And so they offered auto mechanics, and so the community decides what would benefit, and that's what they provide. It's a public-private partnership, but it's a great way to truly address why our kids don't succeed sometimes. It's not the school, it's not the teachers, it's just a lack of resources for the families in the community, for the kids, and for the school at times.
Thank you so much. And now let's move ahead to another topic. Let's talk a little bit of former President Donald Trump and preservation and protection of democracy. Former President Donald Trump has repeatedly said the enemy within is more of a threat to America than foreign enemies. And according to his own cabinet members, wanted to use the military against Americans who disagree with his policies. His Defense Secretary, Mark Esper, says we should take him seriously when he says that. His Joint Chiefs Chairman, General Milley, called him, quote, fascist to the core. Do we have a fascist running for president? And are you concerned that he will make good on these threats if he wins?
I have no doubt that he would make good on those threats. We have seen in the past, we've seen him, edging towards this. We are watching our democratic norms be eroded. We are certainly watching it here in Tennessee. If you follow David Pepper, you know that democracy dies in the states. And so we are seeing that real time, and it's not a slow erosion. It's actually very fast. But when someone stands up and tells you that they will turn the military on citizens who disagree with them, we should all be terrified. And the fact that he's even in the margins in this is just utterly ridiculous. We are talking about an adjudicated rapist who is a convicted felon with more felons on the way, more felonies on the way. This is a person who has made fun of and mocked the disabled, who others, any group that doesn't support him, and who welcomes white supremacists to his events and to his campaign. What is the saying? If someone sits down with 9 racists, there are 10 racists at the table. And this is what we're talking about here. We are talking about a serious danger, not only to this country. He puts our safety in the world at risk. There is no question that internationally he is a huge risk. And thereby my opponent who stands up with everything he says and agrees with absolutely everything he says. We need to stand up to bullies because this is what they are. They are bullies, they are tyrants, and they talk about our Constitution, but they throw it out the window. He's even said he'd like to get rid of it. We have a vice presidential candidate who doesn't want women to have the vote.
Representative Johnson, you're at time now. So sorry,
Thank you.
I got the cue. But thank you. You were on a roll. Thank you so much. And now
I don't think my opponent minds.
sticking with the threat to democracy. Almost 4 years ago, we saw an attack on our Capitol when Donald Trump refused to accept the results of a fair election and spread lies about our democracy. He continues to say the election was rigged, and he has repeatedly said if he loses again, it will be rigged again. Many of the people who did the right thing last time, including Vice President Mike Pence and others at the state level, were Republicans who have now been replaced by others at the state, by others who may not be as committed to the Constitution. How safe are our elections currently? And how confident are you that the result of the election this time around will actually matter?
Well, it matters a lot. I mean, I am confident. I see the work that our election folks are doing locally. I think we have to stay on top of it. I think we have to be vigilant. Like if you go and vote and something comes up on your ballot that's not supposed to be there, or if you push one button and it doesn't show that the candidate that you elected, you've got to call those hotlines. You've got to call someone at the Election Commission. And people really need to remember, if they say that you're not on the rolls or try to discourage you from staying and voting, absolutely make sure you do not leave without voting on a provisional ballot. And then you will have 2 days to do whatever is required to make that provisional ballot official. But we need to be vigilant about keeping an eye and making sure if we see something that comes up wrong on our ballot, that we, before filling it out or anything like that, that we check with the authorities there at the voting location, and that we call the hotline so that we make sure everything that can be done is being done. And I think there will be challenges afterward. He's already said, the Republican candidate for president has already said that they were already challenging things and they were going to challenge things. But the reality is, I think that this election, we have to be vigilant. We have to show up in great numbers and overwhelmingly win this election. But I think that if we do that, I trust that this election will go well. There may be challenges afterward, but I think that we can let the legal process take its course, just like where they've already admitted those challenges last time. They knew they lost, but they challenged anyway. And so I think it's critical that we are ready with legal action and to handle everything that happens after. But I trust that we can have a clean election this year, and I expect our state to do everything they can to make that happen, but also to make sure the people in Upper East Tennessee are able to vote as well in the devastation.
Thank you. And now let's talk a little bit of guns. Firearms are the #1 killer of kids in Tennessee. Tennessee is not in good shape when it comes to gun violence. The Covenant tragedy felt like it should have been a turning point when it comes to gun safety legislation, but much of the legislation in Tennessee was blocked by Republicans, and many even pushed to go in the other direction and loosen our laws. Do you support tightening gun laws at the federal level? Why has more not been done at the state level? And what specifically would you like to see happen to make Tennesseans safer in the streets and in schools?
Oh, that's a lot.
And I'm happy to repeat if you need me to.
No, that's okay. There's so much we can do at the state level and at the federal level. Multiple times I have carried safe storage laws and red flag laws. Both of those bills keep guns out of the hands of dangerous people. If you are required to store your gun safely, you are far more likely to do that so that a 3-year-old doesn't get a gun off a nightstand and shoot a sibling or a playmate. You know, we see this all the time. It's tragic. And we do not have to live this way. And red flag laws, people who already have guns, who might be in crisis for some reason and might be a danger to themselves or others, we can temporarily remove guns from those folks with a red flag law and write it so that it protects people from someone just who's angry at them having their guns removed. We have to show cause and go before a judge and remove guns from that person who is temporarily dangerous. And it is not unconstitutional. These laws are all over the country. Some states have had them for years, and they work. Now, the best thing you can tell is that very often what you see is a huge drop in suicide rates. Because if there's a gun, you've got a depressed person, it's a particularly bad day for that person, there's a gun in the home, they are far more likely to use that gun when they are depressed. But the thing about depression is sometimes the next day you don't feel that way. So if there's not a gun in the home, that's not going to happen. It's harder to tell how many shootings that stopped, but you could easily tell how many lives it saves from suicide. So we need universal enhanced background checks. We need to make sure we check every possibility that someone doesn't have something in their past when they're buying a weapon. And all of these things we can do. I have a gun. I'm a gun owner. My father was in law enforcement. I have his service revolver. But I store it safely. No one is going to get access to that gun. And I make sure that I am careful with it and that it could not get into anyone else's hands. I took the course. We used to have an 8-hour course to get a gun permit. I took that course because if I was going to have the gun, I wanted to make sure I did absolutely everything possible to know all I needed to know about that. The same way when car accidents were the #1 killer of kids, and we looked at the research and we said, oh, well, we need to do this with seat belts, and we need to have car seats for these ages and these weights. And so you look at the research and you find out, how can we protect the community? You can have a gun to protect your home. You can have guns to hunt. If you need an assault weapon to kill a deer, you probably shouldn't be hunting. The reality is no one's taking your guns. We're not doing that. But we can put in protections so that our kids in their school classrooms and our folks in their communities, whether they're at Waffle House, whether they're with high school friends or at a movie or at a church, they can be safe. We can put in protections that don't get at someone's right to own arms, and we can make sure our communities are safer. In the last 10 to 15 years, Tennessee has taken away and removed all protections we had in place when it comes to gun, and that is why Tennessee, not only are kids dying from gun violence the #1 killer of our kids, Tennessee deaths by gun violence is 50% higher than the national average, a little over 50% higher. We do not have to live this way. They are protecting guns and not kids, and they are catering to the NRA, which my opponent takes a lot of money from, and the firearms associations.
Thank you. All right, let's talk marijuana now. Tennessee's prisons have many folks locked up for nonviolent drug offenses. Tennessee's Constitution says we're only allowed to have one private prison, yet we have 4, using a loophole that they contract with counties and not the state. CoreCivic's private prisons in Tennessee have paid out millions in settlements and seen many inmate deaths. They are currently the target of a Department of Justice investigation. Yet, Governor Lee has expressed support for them anyway, and the legislature continues to extend contracts with them. Do you support the continued use of private prisons, and are they contributors to your campaign?
They are absolutely not contributors to my campaign. I brought a bill that was a moratorium on private prisons. I believe we should get rid of private prisons. There is no doubt about that. Absolutely. This most recent investigation is unbelievable. So many of the letters I get at home, we get letters as a state rep at our office, but typically, however they get it, I get a lot of letters from incarcerated folks or their families. And when they tell me their situations that they are in, it is unbelievable. I serve on Government Operations Committee, and we hear, the last time that the Department of Corrections came up for their review, they had so many bad dings on their report because of what is happening. And we do not need, prisons should not be a money-making effort. We should have state employees running state prisons, and we should not have private prisons. And anybody who is taking money from CoreCivic should be absolutely ashamed of what they are doing.
All right. And we're going to toss it up here just a little bit. We've got a couple of audience questions. This one is for Marcia. Well, this person took their time to write the question. It was given to me. I will just read this anyway because we do have our audience who's listening online, and perhaps Senator Blackburn will be watching this. And again, I want to acknowledge those who are watching online. We welcome you into this conversation as well. Hopefully, the comments are open on YouTube and on the thread that you are watching on, because we're going to be monitoring for your questions as well. This one is written for Senator Blackburn. You always talk about immigrants smuggling drugs from Mexico, but when you were in the House, you were one of the 2 representatives who prevented the DEA from tracking the flow of oxycodone into pharmacies. You took money from Big Pharma while Tennesseans died from the painkiller epidemic. Isn't there blood on your hands? All right. All right, and this next question, actually, I'm going to blend with one of the questions that I had, if the author of this question is okay. Let me scroll on down here. This one is for you, Representative Johnson. Now, who can forget about the Tennessee Three, a name coined for you and Representatives Justin Johnson and Justin Pearson when you all were brought up for expulsion from the Tennessee legislature, resulting in you remaining and Pearson and Jones being ousted. That moment illustrated the deep consequences that can result when Democrats and Republicans do not agree. If elected to Congress, how do you plan to work with those on the other side of the line and in a way that is least disruptive to the political process? And this person is asking as well, when the county seems increasingly divided, how do you plan?
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Black people need to be quiet, right?
Well, everyone, Pamela, everyone is being given space to speak. You and I have spoken. Again, as someone who is running for office, I'm sure you can understand it's important. No, we're going to ask that you please have a seat.
But they didn't give me a space to speak. I mean,
Well, we will let you have your time, but as someone who is running for, and understand that I'm on the microphone, so they're only hearing me, but as someone who is running for office and is seeming to be concerned about the people who you want to vote for you, interrupting their time to speak is not respectful of your voters. We will move forward. Thank you so much, everyone. So the question is asking, when the county seems increasingly divided, how do you plan to work towards a bipartisan solution to the issues, and in such a way that hopefully will not be disruptive to the work that is before you all? Thank you for your questions.
Absolutely. The reality is you cannot function in a situation where they're cutting mics and they are not calling on members to speak. You have one-year election. The majority of the 70,000 voters in your district have sent that person to represent them. And then that person is not allowed to speak. That person is, these are elected officials who aren't allowed to speak by the body because they were sent there by the 70,000 people in their district for them to speak. And so the reality is, I will work with any candidate, or I will work with any member who wants to do good things for Tennessee families. So the reality, what a lot of people don't understand, is about 80%, more than 80% of the things.
Representative Johnson, if you don't mind, we're going to give Pamela just a minute. Go ahead and
do what you do and pretend to be progressive. I'm going to take a seat right here because I deserve to be here. I have just as much right to be here as Ms. Johnson.
So disrespectful.
Well, whatever. I'm no more disrespectful than Donald Trump. I have a right to be here. I have a right to debate. And you as a sister know that. I'm tired of y'all culturally appropriating my people to brainwash them into believing that we should not be able to speak. I know Miss Johnson. I've never disrespected her. In fact, I worked with her. No, because you want it to be about her when there's other people in the race. This is America. And in America, everybody has a right to speak. Don't talk about Dr. King. Don't talk about Dr. King when you want Pamela Moses to sit down because he fought for the right of my people to be able to have a seat at the table. And I'm going to sit here and I'm going to be whatever you want me to be, but I won't be quiet.
That's what we want.
I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired of the Democratic Party trying to run everything. People have a right to choose. People have a right to choose.
Pamela, say what you got to say. Say
People
it.
have a right to choose.
Say what you got to say.
What I have to say is I'm running as an independent candidate because I don't do the politics and the partisan stuff. I was a Democrat for 30 years, and y'all haven't had a Democratic senator since Al Gore. His aunt used to live down the street from me, and she taught me a lot of things about Susan B. Anthony. And I'm going to be the Susan B. Anthony in this race, regardless if I raise millions of dollars. I can raise the people
Pamela.
because the people deserve better. And I think that Ms. Johnson has not done a good job in Knox County. There are people that are homeless living up under Clinch Avenue's bridge. And if she wants to be U.S. Senator, she should find them a place to stay. Yeah, Gloria, whatever. Marsha's not here, but Pamela is. Now go ahead.
All right. Okay. Again, I want to just do a little level setting for everyone. And again, as I've said before, in every forum that I do, what's more important to me, and I believe I can say this for the organizers, is that too often voters of every race, creed, and gender is silenced. Too often there is not space for you to be heard, especially when you put in so much effort to elect someone who you want and trust to represent your voice and your interest. That is most important tonight. And the candidates up here, both candidates, both women, are putting out their effort and are asking for your trust as well as your vote. That being said, I want us to move forward, audience and our panelists as well. We're all going to be heard, but we want everyone to not be interrupted. I certainly understand your frustration. I do. But I want us to move forward in a space where everyone can have their say and every word is heard. Is that a deal? Can we agree with that?
Yes.
Sure.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Okay. Mr. Canoe, how would you like us to move forward? I am simply your moderator.
You know, I sympathize with what she's saying. You know, I don't have I'm not going to make the case right here, right now, but I'd like to move forward. If you want to say some stuff at the end. Can we make that deal?
I want to debate. I've been trying to debate Ms. Johnson since this election began. God is my witness. She was not at the debate last week in Rutherford
Do you want
County.
this to just end? Is that what you're trying to do?
No, I want you to ask me the same questions that she is asking her and allow me to participate like an American citizen.
That's not going to happen, Pam.
It's not gonna happen because you want to control
You have this
everything.
publicly. You're not even in the articles about the race.
Okay,
In
well,
your
that's
own
it. You need
city
to do
paper,
your
you
research.
haven't raised
I'm
it
polling
down.
5%.
Let's move forward if we can. If not, we'll just cut it off.
I mean, that's up to you. The people want to hear what the candidates
people
have
want
to
to
say.
shout.
That is unfair for you to only want to hear what
This is
one
gonna win you the
candidate.
race.
This,
I don't know what
excuse
you-
me?
This is not going to gain you votes.
Whatever you say.
If you
I'm
want,
not
I'll have you
here.
on the holler.
I
I'll
can-
have you on the holler.
I have come here. You don't want me on the holler. I have come here to debate Representative Johnson.
Just to
And
get on the mic.
Why don't you ask her,
Justin,
does she
get
want to
on the
debate
mic.
me? Why don't
Speak.
you ask her that?
Yeah.
Do you want to
Debbie,
debate me, Ms.
he
Johnson?
turned his mic
or you
on right
don't?
there.
I was invited here. This is not my event.
So you don't
the
want to debate
the
me?
event
Make sure you speak into the-
organizers
Yeah.
can
Is this
make
on?
that
Yeah, you
decision.
pay
I'm offering, hi Pam, Justin Canoe with the holler here. Hi. I'm offering to have you on the holler, just you, to come on the holler. If you're not going to disrupt this
I'm
event.
running against Marsha Blackburn, and I'm running against her.
Okay.
We're here. Don't waste the people's time. Let the people hear what they
So,
want to say.
so the other option is we're just going to cut off the event, because at this point you've just disrupted it.
Franklin deserves better.
Okay. Gloria, thank you for coming. I don't even know what else to say. I'm happy to have you. Come on the holler.
I can't pay you. I didn't raise enough money according to you.
You didn't raise a dime.
You don't know
Some
what-
people are taking this race seriously. You're just showing up and causing a
Everyone,
stink,
thank you all
Pam.
for coming.
It's about money.
It's about effort. It's about effort. It's about effort.
Okay, you want to talk about money, talk about y'all.
Thank
shutting
you.
my ass down. Talk
Thank you
about
to our
talk about
organizers.
Democrats
Thank you to
shutting
those who
my
are
ass
hosting
down.
us here at the Williamson County Administration Complex. Thank you to Williamson County TV. More importantly, thank you to you all who are in the audience, who drove all this way and took out your time. And I thank you to everyone who is watching online. We apologize for the disruption, but I think you've seen enough to make an informed decision. Thank you. Thank you all so, thank you. We appreciate you. Not my first time, trust me. I'm used to it. Thank you all so much.